Hello, boys and girls. It's time once again for Reading Workshop. Today I want to start off by congratulating all of you for all your hard work, studying each book from your book baggie, studying each book you've read on my own or Raz Kids. That has been a lot of hard work. A big thumbs up to you. I know you have been doing a great job because of the many books I noticed that some of you are reading on my own and Raz Kids every day. Keep up the good work. So, all of that hard work you did was, one, you had to keep track of what happens in the story. Two, you had to get to know the characters in your story. And three, you had to learn lessons from those characters. So a big thumbs up to you. So today I feel like we could kick it up a notch. I feel like you are ready for some more challenges, don't you? So I want you to sit up straight like a college student and turn your brain way up high today, because we want to start with something challenging today, a little college work. So today I want to teach you that readers can compare and contrast books. They do that by thinking, what's the same and what's different? So that's the kind of work that we are going to try out together today. And as you notice, we have our new post-it that says compare and contrast books. And to compare, we ask, what's the same? And to contrast, we ask, what's different? And you can see it there on our chart for this week. So let's start with this kind of work by comparing and contrasting two furry friends, very familiar friends. Some of you might right now have some of them as pets at home, right? And let's think about how we can compare and contrast these two furry friends. Look at both of them and think, what is the same? And then think, what is different? Turn and talk with someone at home, then come on right back. Now that you're back, let's see how well you did. Maybe you shared some of these things and so many, many more. Remember, to compare, we tell what's the same. And to contrast, we tell what's different. Okay, so some of you might have said to compare. Both are animals. Both have fur. Both have eyes, ears, legs, and some of you might have even said both of them can be pets. Because of course some of you might have a dog at home right now or a cat that is your pet. And that's just some of the little things that we could have said. But there are many, many things that are the same about them. Let's get to the contrast and see what some of you might have come up with. Maybe you said one is a dog and the other is a cat. One has white fur and the other has dark gray fur. One has black eyes and the other has yellow and black eyes. One has floppy ears and the other has pointy ears. And of course, if you didn't say any of those things, I'm very sure you said a lot of other ways that they are different. So this little compare and contrast activity we just did with our furry friends, we can apply the same concept, the same skill also to comparing our books. So let's look at how that can work. So we can compare and contrast familiar stories, or we can choose to compare and contrast a new book we are now reading with some of the ones we have already read. So when you're reading your new book, for example, and as you're coming across things that feel like they're similar to something that you've read in your other books, your familiar ones, you could begin to mark those pages with a post-it or some way of marking it, and prepare to share the things that are the same with someone at home. What things can we compare and contrast about our books? Well, you learned about what happens in the story, so you can actually choose to compare the events, some of what happens, whether they are the same things or whether they are different things. You could choose to compare and contrast how the characters feel and behave in the beginning and the ending. You could choose to compare the problems. Were the problems the same or were they different? You can choose to compare the lessons that the characters learn. Were they the same lessons or were the lessons different? For example, let's look at these two books that we are all familiar with, Iris and Walter. Let's think about something that we can compare, something that's the same about these two books. Well, I could start by thinking about the lessons, more recent thing, the lessons. In both stories, the characters had great friends who were always there for them. So that's something that's a compare or that's the same. Let's think about how these books are different. An example. Well, in Iris and Walter, in the beginning of the story started off with the characters feeling excited because Iris and Walter had just learned that they were going on a field trip to the aquarium. While in Mr. Potter and Tabby, there's a big contrast at the beginning. We met the main characters napping everywhere. So they weren't excited about anything. That's a contrast. That's a difference. They were just napping everywhere because they are old. Another contrast would be that the characters in Iris and Walter are young in the beginning, but the characters in Mr. Potter and Tabby, they're old. Did you see how I compare and contrast the two books? Well, we could even do more compare and contrast with them, and we could do that also with a new book that we are now learning things about the character, the events, the problem, and the lessons. So boys and girls, today you have an awesome job to do. You're going to be like college students today, comparing and contrasting your books by thinking about what's the same and what's different. Remember, you can choose to compare anything about the books. You can choose to compare the events. You could choose to compare the characters' feelings at the beginning and the ending of the books. You could choose to compare the problems or the lesson learned and many other things about the book. Most of all, boys and girls, I just want you to enjoy reading. Don't forget, read at least 3 books on my own or Raskit's and practice to compare and contrast your books.